great days, isn't it? So the first thing I think is holding standards high. If we may not be the best of achievers, and technically there is no limit to it. So a genetic scientist would not be aiming for a pedestal right now, because by the time he gets there, things will have changed so much. Everything's going to start looking so different that probably that great success that he achieves today is going to look puny in 2 weeks from now. So it's probably not about beating a benchmark or reaching a threshold or making a new mark or outnumbering others. It's about keeping high standards at all time. Wherever your standards are, you would have a standard for the kind of work that you want to do. So it's going to be tough, it's going to be challenging. You would not always be able to cite the kind of work that you want to do coming your way. There'll always be more takers for it. So you'd have to be, it's a tough road. Whenever it's your road, it is a tough road. It can't be an easy road and a great road to walk on. So keep your standards high. The next thing is, it's a phase. Whatever it is, if it's great, I'm sure it's enjoyable, but it's a phase. It'll phase out. So if it's dull, this too is definitely going to change. So please keep reminding your mind about this being a phase and not the reality of your life. It's been so many years that I've been alive for, I still am looking at what is the permanent state of my life. And I can't really ballpark it. I can't put a name to it. I can't define it yet. Which means it is something that keeps changing every day. Just like life. Okay? Third thing, we are not wrong or right. There is nothing wrong with the world. A very bad side to positivity these days is to figure fault or transfer all the fault to the outside and try to name yourself or label yourself as the right entity. There is nothing wrong with you. You are beautiful. All of that is great stuff. I know that's motivational, but it's also important to realize there is nothing wrong with anything around us. It's because we have learned to compare things to our ideals. So I idolize something or someone, or I've learned or been taught to call something great or ideal or right, and hence I start chasing it. There's nothing wrong with that until A, it ends up hurting someone, or B, it starts bothering yourself. The B is what I see happening more often around me. More and more people are discontented by how they feel about their life because they are comparing it constantly with something outside of them, and when they're not able to get there, they end up calling it wrong. I can live without it because I know how they got there. That's not the right path. You never know. Keep inspiring yourself. Forget the criticism about anything that lies outside of you. A very important thing, this is very critical. We are not special. Somehow the adverts that are playing around, and this is my personal take, if you think this makes sense, then you may adapt it. I don't call myself special. There's nothing special about me or anybody else that I see around. Everyone is different. Probably, you'd like to call that special, but there is nothing called the upper crest. We are constantly in search of someone that we can label as the milestone at something. I don't think that's very important, because then we are limiting our own efforts. The most we would strive for is to get there, right? And probably if we keep doing things just the way we are tuned or wired to function in the world, we might end up crossing it in no time. It's very important to at least try it your unique way. The next important thing, and arguably one of the most important, is that don't wear the superhero cape. I've been raised in a culture where I'm constantly told about superheroes, how people achieve great things, why they are so nice with superhero movies. All of that is great stuff. Superheroes always have special powers, don't they? But do you? So we can't be wearing superhero capes. More and more people around the world are now in this dilemma of what they truly are, because there is someone that they want to see themselves as, and there is this someone that they actually are. So personally, I feel it's very important to come to terms with who you actually are. You might be great with music, and you might be miserable with cooking. It's good to come to terms with it. You don't want to be a superhero and be a great cook, and be good at music, and be great at work, and pick up martial art and be good with it. So you'd always have your soft spots and your strengths. I think it's very important to come to terms with it, so that you can then decide how much time do you want to end up spending in what. Do you want to spend more time in what you're good at, so that you master it disproportionately, or do you want to dedicate some more time to things that you're not really good at, so that you improve on them? That's a personal thing again. So no superhero cape. Understand, just for once, we all end up achieving things that we either want to or we die. There is no living person on this planet who achieved something that they just wanted to or desired to. These are people who achieve things by great perseverance, and I can use a whole list of fancy words, but the meaning stays the same. It's just as enterprising to be someone who's perseverant, and it's very easy for a perseverant person to outdo someone who's very creative, exceptionally intelligent, or phenomenally articulate. Any of the traits can be beaten by some outstanding perseverance. So, like I do things, I'm very bad with writing, and that's what I try to do the most in my free time. Okay, I'm very impatient, so whenever I get a thought, I just want to probably record it, but I know the worth of writing it down somewhere. And to break that code, this might sound very silly because it's a very simple example, but it came to me with great efforts. I literally had to start getting up every time I got a thought and make it a point to put it down somewhere, so that one day when I'm trying to recall it, I know where exactly to go back to and access it, not keep struggling between files on some recorder. Another thing, lock the shoulds out. We've already spent a lifetime listening to what we should do. I don't know what it helped you gain, but shoulds have only guided me. I'd love to call them my guiding lights. So I got an idea of what may be the right way, but again, it was always about what I want to do. It never was really about what I should do. Because people might think that I should be dressed up in formals in a particular setting, and I might feel exceptionally comfortable in casuals on that day, and that might in fact add to my productivity. And there are great researchers which have recently come out with this whole correlation between your dressing and your performance at work. Not the most important thing on the planet, but yes, it was done recently, so it's always good to be updated. Again, don't be trying to be better. Okay, this is something that I've been doing for a few years of my life. So if I could not sing a note, I would go on rehearsing it in a bit to turn it better. The fact stays that I will be always me. I'll always be me, right? So am I not happy with who I am? If that is the case, then it's a lot more stress you need to lay on the fact that this is all you'd ever be. Things around you might change, what you consume might improve in terms of quality, what you buy might improve in terms of quantity and quality. You might own bigger things, you might know better people, but at the end of the day you will still stay who exactly you are. So the motive should rather be, or could rather be, to improve things, to your satisfaction, and not necessarily trying to be a better someone every day. If you're not, personally, I feel, if I'm not very good with kindness or chivalry or austerity, it's a great thing to try to learn those principles from people and practice habits that others are good at. But it might be a great waste of time if I'm never going to make it to the other side. It's always more productive and constructive to focus on the things that I'm good at, And in my world, it's not very important for me to be kind. It's far more important to be tolerant. I should at least let people be in their comfort zones. For me, walking up to a person and asking him to change the way he or she is a far bigger crime than not trying to improve someone if they're not interested. So those, I think, sum it up. Okay, and on top of all this string of words that I've tried to exchange with you, what's more important is you always personalize your plan for your life. We'll, throughout this journey, we'll keep bumping into great talkers or theorists who will come up with better presentations on how to define your goals and achieve them, and they'll tell us how to word them better and pursue them with more vigor and all of that great stuff. But what's going to stay forever is what you find yourself happy doing, and that's the one thing that I don't want to stop, and I would not recommend anybody else to try to stop ever. So if you think being yourself gets you a little closer to happiness, be just the way you are and try to transform or change things that you do in your daily lives. So if it's about waking up at a certain time so that you're more productive through the day, try changing that and just that, not essentially the construct of your brain. Because if your brain is allowed to stay exactly how it is tuned, which is fairly impossible because we attack it with so many drugs, pharmaceutical drugs to begin with, that the chemistry changes as we grow old. But whatever is left of it, if you let it stay natural, you'll at least be satisfied that you lived yourself. You may not have lived a better person by the end of it. And I was reading this post the other day. Somebody had beautifully written that you are not an afterthought. You are what you are today. So a lot of that is happening around us as we speak. People are trying to look at themselves as an afterthought. They want to be remembered for great reasons after they've gone. All of that is great. I understand the positive aspect of it, but in a bid to get all of that, please don't stop trying things that you genuinely want to try. Let the word be foolish for you and not intelligent. But if you achieve what you want to, I won't mind being called a fool. Would you? Thanks for listening, and I really hope it adds value to the many great things that you're already